Hello, everyone. It's Father Norm again. Good to be with you. Question: do you know what we commemorate in the year 2026? Think about that for a moment. The year after this coming year. What do we remember? Hopefully, you'll remember something. You may say, I'm baffled. Or you may say, and this is very understandable, that 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, of our liberty. And I know there's going to be a lot done during that time to help us be mindful of that. What does it mean to be truly patriotic? What does it mean as one nation, even with our differences, to seek to understand and help one another? What does it mean as a country to care about the global community with all that we can bring to it? What does it mean as a country that we can foster greater peace and justice, especially in attitudes toward one another, and genuine concern for the poor among us and the most vulnerable? 2026. Now, you get extra credit if you said this or thought this. Some may have. 2026 is the 800th anniversary of the death of Francis of Assisi, whose really death day. In the Catholic tradition, often we think of the birthday as the birth into everlasting life, which is a beautiful way to reflect on it. And for St. Francis, that year was 1226, 800 years ago, this coming year of 26. So, kind of, we might say, well, gee, those seem to be two separate realities that year. Our nation's independence and the death and new life of Francis of Assisi. In another way, we should know this in our Catholic tradition, there's one God who creates us all and somehow wants to bring us together in various ways, especially around who are we as a nation, and who are we as a Catholic and Christian faith community? And I think these two can tie in. When we talk about our nation, obviously we're talking about our liberty. And even today, we pray for the liberty, the freedom of all nations around the world, not to be taken over by any other nation. And hopefully we remember what a gift it is that we exercise our freedom wisely, that we treasure the freedom that we have to vote and the responsibility for all to have that opportunity. That's important. Freedom is foundational. At the same time, when we talk about St. Francis, we maybe don't always think of him this way, but he too came to an experience of freedom in his life, and his freedom that he kept going, grounded in his spirituality, grounded in his vital living relationship with Jesus Christ. Many of you know some of this, just briefly mentioned. When he was a young adult, like a lot of young adults, he was carefree. He would go about with whatever he wanted to do. And that was his attitude. He went through some significant conversions. One was meeting a leper along the way and embracing him and sensing that was what the Lord was calling him to do. Another was in the chapel of San Damiano, hearing the Lord, the crucifix, saying, build my church, rebuild my church. And what really happened for him most of all, his freedom from worrying about what other people thought about him, his freedom from being caught up in the wealth that his family had, his freedom from judging people and putting people down, and even looking to go to war in order for where they were to, where his own city was, to come together again and be free from war and violence. But his whole point, I'm going to read, a lot of you know it, I'm just going to read part of the whole Francis prayer that we know about. Before I do, I want to mention this too, that's part of this season that we're in, a season of creation. And in our church and around the world, it's an emphasis leading right up to October 4th, to that day that we remember him, that we're more conscious of the sacredness of all of creation. Pope Francis, a number of years ago in 2015, came out with an encyclical about that. That's very powerful, and it's called in the Latin Laudate Si. And you can pick it up and you can go to that, or you can go to the whole thing of Francis of Assisi and see what we are trying to do in creation. But he was the one 800 years ago who spoke of brother sun and sister moon, and spoke of all the other elements in relationship to us as human beings. I think we still have a long way to go, even with Francis' prayer, which part of it, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Even as a human family, we have a long way to go to be reconciled, to understand one another, to care for one another. And we have a long way to go to care for the environment, to recognize that the environment is just as much a relationship with it we're in, this planet Earth, that Francis of Assisi recognized that as sacred. And what's our relationship like with each other and with the earth that we inhabit? You all know, and there's so much more that you can look up and about our planet, climate change, just a number of other issues that we have to see. Are we recognizing our planet as sacred? And not only that, if our planet is sacred and we keep the environment, that also helps especially the poor and vulnerable among us, who there's great concern with climate change, that many of the places where they live around the world will be overrun by water because they live often very near places like that. And so we need to care and act. If you want, I would encourage you, you can go to the Creation Care, Catholic Creation Care, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of practicalities about that. But it starts with our own attitude. How are we with each other? How are we with our environment? Do we recognize one another and the environment as sacred, to care about, not to be indifferent to, and certainly even in our human relationships, not to be hostile to, but to be and get people who follow the way of peace, the way of love for everything, for everyone. God gave us all of this as a gift. We need to realize it's a gift and really genuinely care. God bless you. Think of what we can all do, just even some small way, to make our planet and our people a little more part of what we make a difference, to help to be what God is calling all of us to be, partners, to partner with Him in making the human family and creation sacred and beautiful the way He intended it to be for all time. God bless you.